friends, and welcome back to A Peculiar Project, where we take your peculiar project and turn it into a publishable manuscript. Today we're going to look at punctuation while writing dialogue, and this will apply to memoir, narrative nonfiction, and especially fiction. For these rules, I do reference the Chicago Manual of Style. I have the 17th edition. Tells you right there. The essential guide. Essential. So, and it is essential for fiction writers especially. Most publishing houses do base their own styles on the Chicago style. So you don't have to own a copy of this. You can find a lot of information on the web, and I will be providing a lot of that information as well. So as I said, today we're looking at punctuation. Typically, how ending sentences, the punctuation goes inside the quotation marks, although at the end, my final example is the exception to that rule. I just wanted to say that I read through the sections on this in Chicago Manual of Style. Unfortunately, there isn't just one dedicated section to dialogue. There are quotation marks discussed, including the whole paragraphs on straight quotes versus smart quotes when they curve. So it's a little bit obtuse reading for anyone who just wants a simple answer, because there's a lot of here's one tidbit and then go to this other section 100 pages later to read more. So I did flip through and find the answers that we need for today's work. But I wanted to make sure I did all that research because this has come up a few times in manuscripts that I've edited, and we actually talked about this a couple weeks ago in my writing group as well. So it's something that does come up. It's something that is important, and we need to know that we get it right. You don't want to look sloppy when you're publishing your work. So without further ado, I will show you some tips and tricks for getting punctuation right while writing dialogue. Okay, let's dive right into these examples that illustrate the rules for punctuation in dialogue. So I did use the word rules, and a lot of times I believe rules are meant to be broken, but in this case there are some wrong ways to do things, and I'll explain exactly why those are not the best idea. So for this first one, this is something you've seen probably, and it's very common. You have a dialogue tag that opens a sentence. It's separated by a comma, and then you have quotes demarking the dialogue. The period goes inside the quotes, and then you close the quote. So for example, we would write something like, Owen said, you got to see this. It's totally rad. We'll make this person have some character, right? So what we have here is exactly that. We have a dialogue tag, and that is this first bit. Owen said. That gives attribution to the words that are spoken. So just to make sure we're completely clear on our terminology, you follow that with a comma, and then inside the quotes are the words that Owen said out loud. And the punctuation goes inside the closing quotes. Pretty simple, pretty common. Example 2, all we're doing is moving that dialogue tag to the end. I'll make it a different color so it stands out. So I'll use the same thing. You've got to see this. It's totally rad. And here we put a comma to separate it from the dialogue tag, and it's still Owen said, and then we put the period at the end. This is the most common construction for dialogue sentences in fiction. The most common. You will see this quite a bit because it is simple and it's clear. And you will see, we'll go back up to example 1, you will see this as well. And I will talk in a next video about how to do dialogue tags and when you might want to choose one versus the other. I do think you will see this a little more often in narrative nonfiction, where you are reporting on an actual conversation and there are legal issues there, so you want to be abundantly clear who is speaking and you put the names up front. Not always, but that is one reason you might do that. In fiction, we'll talk about different choices you might make, like I said in another video. Excuse me. So what if there's other punctuation? What if you want to use a question or a exclamation point? Mostly it still goes inside the quotes. So we'll use the exact same words. We'll just change the emotion used by changing the punctuation. So back to our excitable Owen. We will make sure that this is visible. It stands out, okay? You gotta see this. It's totally rad. He's really excited. Owen said. So in this example, what we have is an exclamation point inside the quotations at the end of what Owen says. And the reason we put it here is because Owen is excited and his excitement is expressed in his words. So this exclamation point goes with this sentence. It's totally rad. Come on, guys, you've got to see this. It's totally rad. He's excited. So that's where that goes. Maybe someone standing next to him says, "Is that what I think it is?" She asked. The question is this sentence right here. Is that what I think it is? That's where the question mark goes because this is a question. This is not a question. You as the author are relaying to us what she asked. This is a statement of fact. It ends in a period. Yes, it's fiction. It may not be a fact in the real world, but within your story world, this is a statement of fact. She asked this question. And the same applies if you put the dialogue at the beginning. She asked, comma, quotes, "Is that what I think it is?" It is. Excuse me. Again, the question mark goes inside the quotation marks. She asked, "Is that what I think it is?" And there's your question. So let's look at what we do not do. I think it's pretty clear. Let's just cut and paste. So if we use this, and if we put this question mark outside of the quotes, what does that actually mean? And let's make this red because this is wrong, and red goes with wrong in our editing world, doesn't it? Is that what I think it is? Here, it's kind of ambiguous. I mean, this part is the question inside the quotation marks right here. That's the question. And so when you put this out here, it becomes confusing what you actually mean. Which part of the sentence is a question? It's incorrect, and so it just looks wrong. So let's emphasize that we are not going to do this. Okay? And for the another way to look at it, you gotta see this. It's totally rad. I have seen this, Owen said, with the exclamation point at the end. I've seen this a few times from different people. And so I want to say right now, this is incorrect. And when it comes to grammar and punctuation, there are rules, and there are rules for a reason. We have these rules because we need to communicate clearly in our writing. It is very difficult to infer meaning when we are reading the written word. And so punctuation becomes paramount in this situation to put the emotion in the right place. So who is excited if you see this? You got to see this. It's totally rad. Owen said. It makes it feel like it is the narrator or the author who is excited that Owen said this. When in fact, that emotion belongs here. It's totally rad. That's where the excitement is in what Owen is seeing, and he's excited to show it to everyone. So this again is wrong. And in a lot of cases with writing, and even with punctuation, sometimes rules can be bent or broken. But in this case, I don't think so. This is very confusing, punctuation, to put that here. It is wrong in the sense of every style guide that I've seen. And so in this case, I'm going to go ahead and use those words right and wrong, which I probably won't do in very many of these videos. But I think this example is pretty clear. Almost always, in the examples that we've looked at, we illustrate that the punctuation goes inside the quotes. And as I said already in this example, this is because the emotion belongs to the speaker. The question, the curiosity here belongs to whoever the speaker is. It doesn't belong to us, the narrator, the story writer. So punctuation outside of the quotes. This would occur maybe later in your story. A friend is talking to someone who was there when Owen showed them stuff, and they say, "Did Owen say totally rad?" Now here, the question does not go with the quote. It goes with the entire sentence, and that's why it goes outside of the quotation marks. Unfortunately, if this is fiction and this is something that a character is saying, you're going to wind up with double quotes. Ned asked, "Did Owen say totally rad?" And so you're going to have a lot of punctuation stacked up here at the end, and that's okay. That's the right way to do this. Because Owen's like totally an 80s surfer dude, and he uses the phrase totally rad a lot, so maybe his friends can account or are snickering. Another time you would use this is in reporting or in nonfiction. So that's what I have this example here. Did the research paper conclude with, quote, "Aspirin is not recommended to prevent heart disease," end quote, question mark. And that's because the entire sentence is a question. We don't know if that's what it concluded with. But this is not a question, this is a statement inside those quotes. And so you might use this to spark an interest in a new chapter in your book. Did the research actually say aspirin is not recommended, or was it just inconclusive? Right? So this might be kind of an inflammatory way of saying things, but this is how you would punctuate that. So those are my examples. I hope that is clear. I think none of this should be a big surprise to anyone. If you have questions, of course, leave them in the comments down below, and I will get back to you as soon as I can, probably within a day or two at the most. So, happy writing!